Hey everybody, today we're talking about something that all artists struggle with, which is how to actually find time to work on your art around all of your life. And I'm going to be talking about what to do when you finally find that time, but you're just like staring at the page wondering what to do. If you're new here, hi, I'm Carly Ann. I'm a professional full-time illustrator, and this channel is just simple tips to help you reach your art goals and make it like a little bit easier and hopefully more fun. Welcome. All right, so you might think that because I'm a full-time illustrator that I don't need to find extra time to work on my art, but I actually found that when I didn't do this, not only did I lose some of my skill as an artist, I started to fall out of love with art, which is really sad. So I found that even when I'm professionally working full-time as an illustrator, I still need to carve out time at the end of my day or weekly so that I can work on my own personal projects. Right now, since I'm transitioning to do more of the social media stuff, I have to put in a lot of extra time than I was before. So I have to do this a lot, plus my full-time job and my 2 kids and family, etc. So I understand, and I'm going to share with you guys what I do. All right, so I've basically heard 2 different ways to go about this. It depends on whether or not you're a morning person or a night person. I am not a morning person. Okay, well, I'm a morning person, like I'm chipper and happy in the morning. I just don't like the getting out of bed part. That's a problem. But from what I understand, for people who like to work in the morning, what they do is they go to bed a little earlier. They wake up before anybody else in the family is awake, and they use that quiet time as their production time. I recommend that if you go this route, that you don't like check your social media or the news or get online as much as you can. Just go straight to working. So that way you don't get distracted, because it's really easy to get distracted by other things. So you just wake up, you have quiet time, you do your work, and then everyone wakes up and then your day starts. So that's one way that I've heard that people carve out their time. The way I carve out my time is I sleep. I wake up, I have my family, we do breakfast, I go to work, etc., etc. Whole day, we eat dinner, I put my kids to bed, and then that's when I have the time that I can work on my own personal projects. For me, our schedule is usually around 7 until like 9, sometimes 10. The kids are like going to bed and getting them to sleep. And then after they're asleep is when my work time starts. I don't do this every night. My husband and I actually schedule out 1 or 2 nights a week that are like just for him and I to spend time together, so we have quality time. And those are like our TV nights or whatever. But the other nights I'm not allowed to watch TV or play games or do other things that would be distracting for me personally. So I either have the option of I can work, or I can go to sleep, or I can just stare at the walls, which is sometimes really nice, or just sit outside and look around. But I'm not allowed to do those like sort of addictive, distracting activities. I can either work or kind of do nothing. Usually I will often do that. Like I'm just burnt out and I don't want to work, so I just go to sleep super early, or I just sit outside and listen to birds until I go to bed. But usually after a few nights of that, I get kind of bored and I start wanting to work again. I actually was listening to an interview with Neil Gaiman, and he recommended that what he does is goes to like a quiet space where all he has is his notebook to write in, and he can either write or do nothing. He can't look at his phone or watch TV or anything. So it kind of takes that pressure off of feeling like you have to work. You have the option to work or not work, but you don't have the option to do something else. And honestly, that freedom for me has really helped me, not feeling like I have to do it, because that can be really creatively stifling for me. But having the option of like, I'm either working or I'm just sitting here. And sometimes, you know, I really need that quiet day, and that's fine. I don't have to, it's totally okay. Okay, I also tend to work on weekends. I'm sorry, I'm not the most exciting person. What I do is my husband and I tend to take turns watching the kids and supporting each other so that we can work on our own personal goals. The way that we do it is we both wake up in the morning, we eat breakfast together as a family, and we eat dinner as a family. But that time in the middle of the day, I often will do like errands, like get groceries, do cleaning, but I'll take the kids with me and I will have them for that day while he can work on his own personal projects. And then on Sunday we flop, and then he watches the kids and I can work on my own personal projects. We don't do this every weekend. There are definitely weekends where I just don't want to work, but especially when I have a tight deadline, that's absolutely what we do. And I try not to work weekend nights unless I have a large deadline, and then I'll work those nights. But I try to have like 2 weekend nights that I can just spend doing whatever I want, as well as 1 weekend night that I can spend with my husband. And that's how I do my schedule. I am aware that I'm a little bit of a crazy workaholic. So don't feel like you have to do that schedule or that you need to put in that much time. I have been told my entire life that I work too much and all that sort of stuff, and it works for me, but I know there are other people that would be really stressed out by working that much extra time on top of their regular jobs. So find for you what that balance is, how many hours it is per week that you want to put in to your art. But keep in mind, when you're new, when you're learning to draw and you want to have it be a career, you need to put in more time at that early stages. And also when you're transitioning from one career to another, you're gonna have to put in more of that extra work during those time periods. When I was in school, the way that I did that, because I still had to work a full, like I had to make money to pay for school. The way that I did it was I tried to find a job that would pay me a little bit more while working less hours. So I was a waitress so I could get tips, or I had a job that gave me really amazing flexibility so I could have as much time off as I needed for homework. And that's how I balanced it once I was in school. Now, obviously, now that I'm working full time, I can't really adjust my work hours. So instead I squeeze it in between everything else. All right, the hardest thing about especially the night owl schedule is that you get to the end of the day and you're exhausted and you don't want to work. And I feel that way all the time, especially with 2 little kids, so I understand. There are nights where I literally spend 2 hours sitting in a dark room with them, waiting for them to fall asleep. And by the time I get out, I just want to sleep. Like, I just have no interest in working whatsoever. So I do often, and otherwise there are some tricks that I've done that helps me feel like I have enough energy to actually go back to work after that whole day of activities. The first one is, like I said, schedule those nights out so that you have specific nights that are your no distraction nights. You can work or do nothing, and then have your TV nights. That has to be in a schedule. It has to be decided ahead of time. Otherwise, every night becomes like TV night. So I have to have that scheduled ahead of time. There's a guy with a little cart outside. He's just like doing wheelies out there. I don't know what's happening. All right, so those nights are scheduled out ahead of time so that way it doesn't slip into my entire life is doing that. And my husband is aware of that schedule and he agrees to that schedule too, so that way he's not distracting me from my goals. It's really important that you communicate to the people around you, especially if you live with them, so that they know what you're doing, because otherwise they might try and pull you away from that. And hopefully you're with somebody who's supportive, or with a family that is supportive of you doing that. All right, the second thing that I did was got an iPad so that I could be portable. I avoided getting one for a really long time, but I got one just about 6 months ago, and it's been amazing. Because one of the things that was really hard for me is I work from home. So going back to my desk where I've been working all day and working again was just, I couldn't get myself to even sit at my desk. So having an iPad, I could sit on the couch or sit outside or go to a coffee shop or whatever, and it didn't feel like I was back at work for the day. And the second benefit for me personally was, like I said, I often spend like an hour or 2 waiting for my kids to fall asleep in their room. I could take the iPad in there with me and I could draw while they fall asleep. And I actually got to regain like an hour or 2 of my day that's usually just like completely gone. And so that's been really successful for me. Which brings me to another point, which is sometimes you might need to change the environment around you. You might be in a place that's too loud or has too many people or too many distractions or is too messy. And finding a way to move somewhere else where it's quieter, or get noise canceling headphones or something to sort of dole out those distractions has been really helpful. There have been times where I literally just went into my car to draw or like to think, so that I could have that quiet time when I just couldn't do it at home. Okay, the next thing I do is I try to create goals for myself. If I'm trying to do a project or I have like something that I'm going after, when I sit down to work, I actually have it figured out already. I tend to keep a to-do list of all the projects I want to get done that week, like record my YouTube video, do an Instagram post, illustrate that comic I've been thinking about, or whatever it is. And so when I get that time to finally sit down, I already know what I'm gonna do. It's really hard for me when I sit down to work and I don't know what I'm gonna do and I'm just trying to figure it out, and then it feels forced and I never end up liking what I create in those moments. But if I've decided ahead of time, I'm gonna paint daily for an hour, like an environment painting, or I have this homework that I found online for like how to do value on a vase, and I'm gonna do my homework. Having that figured out ahead of time before I even get the chance to draw makes it so that when I do sit down to draw, I have it already figured out what I'm gonna do and I can start rolling right away. And then the next thing I do is I set myself fake deadlines. You can have real deadlines too if you take up a commission. Sometimes that's helped me. Or I'll be part of like an art challenge that has a deadline, or what's it called? A competition. Yeah, or like an art competition. Like I'll do monthly competitions on SPS Learn because it gives me a deadline. I tend to be kind of a procrastinator, which is funny to say after I said how much I work, but having that deadline for me helps motivate me. And so I know that I have to get it done by that time. And so I'm like, oh, well, I have my deadline and I need to get it done, so I better work on it tonight. And that really helps me personally. All right, so those are my tips for how to carve out time and to actually utilize that time for your art. I hope you guys found that helpful and you don't just think I'm a crazy person and I work all the time. But I honestly feel like I get to spend time with my family every single night. We spend all of our meals together. I spend time with them every weekend. I feel very satisfied with that time that I get to spend with them. And also I get to work on my own personal goals. So it works for me. And I hope you guys figure out that balance that works for you too. If you guys like this, give me a like or subscribe so you can come back again. We'll be taking comments for videos. If you guys have something you want me to talk about or a tutorial you would like to see, please comment below because I am taking those right now. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.